The time was probably the worst time anyone should ever get to the world of real estate. My background made it somewhat natural to be able to excel in a challenging environment. Hey, my name is Maynard Wagner. I run the Wagner Real Estate Group out of Seattle. Previously, my background was I was 8 years at Ernst & Young in kind of finance, audit, working with a variety of companies, including large banks and financial services companies. Then I went to Washington Mutual Bank and was there as a senior manager for 6 years. And then at that time, we entered into the 2008 recession. Washington Mutual was, I guess, a victim of that whole circumstance and was acquired by JP Morgan Chase. And it was an opportunity for me at that time to rethink whether I wanted to stick with corporate banking and go with JP Morgan Chase or do something different. So I had an entrepreneurial spirit in me and I channeled that to decide to go to get my master's in business, not really knowing where that would take me. And while I was getting my master's in business at the University of Washington, I used my experience in banking and finance to help friends kind of get out of tough situations while also finding some opportunities to invest in real estate. And while I was still in getting my MBA, trying to figure out what my next entrepreneurial job was going to be, I realized it was like right in my lap as I was going through school. So I decided to take that opportunity and go full time as a real estate broker. Generally, every real estate agent and broker was leaving the business while I said, this sounds like a great time. But that just seemed like a natural thing to get into. And, fortunately now I've got 10 years of experience in me. So I came in at a very tough time, which has allowed me to learn a lot and excel now at a very good time. It was a big learning process, right? I didn't really know what I was getting into. I mean, I had to go from a world where I had a lot of structure, a job with, Monday through Friday. And then I had to learn about pretty much something that the financial real estate world had not seen before, right? So it was on-the-job learning about how to manage through this challenging kind of real estate market, then also learning to myself to be a very disciplined entrepreneur, hold myself accountable to a tight schedule. And I didn't have a boss or a business coach or anybody to really learn from. So I just figured it out on my own. I was fortunate I left a corporate job where I had a little bit of money to help me pay for business school and to kind of keep things going, even without kind of steady pay. But I do remember there was this one time where I felt like if I could not close this transaction, it was a very difficult short sale transaction and we were down to like the final 24 hours to get it done. I remember I was going to have a tough time paying my mortgage on my property. And so it was me and my daughter living in, a house that we bought essentially in 2007 prior to the crash. So we paid for it. It was underwater. And, in this time, real estate deals weren't happening very quickly. So yeah, I remember that one challenging time and I'm like, whoa, I never want to kind of be in this situation again. So fortunately we did close the deal and it worked out. And, I never ever had a challenge with actually being able to pay rent or pay my mortgage, but that was one kind of big turning point. And then there was another one where as I was trying to figure out what kind of discipline I should have in this type of role where I'm my own boss, I really wasn't very disciplined, or I had too many times probably where I made the decision to go out and take the afternoon off. And I found out quickly that that wasn't a good idea, through maybe perhaps having a challenging need to close a deal, or perhaps because my partner, my wife said, hey, you know what, you're not really bringing your A game to this. And it's kind of disappointing to see you as a very talented individual not giving it your all. So I was like, whoa, that was a good wake up call too. So those are a couple of early turning points, and it's not like immediately things change, but you figure it out over time and you gain maturity and clarity about what it takes to be successful. Somebody who's been now, running my own business for 10 plus years, failing forward or getting through those struggle moments are really what helps you grow and get better at it. Now that's what's great. Like now I can run my team and I got new agents on my team and I can help them not make the same mistakes I did. So that's I'm using that experience to help my new team members. Like I said, I had to learn on my own. So just the 3 years of like real practical experience, you can't measure, you can't read it in a book. You can't there's no manual for it, right? So that's probably part of it. And then at that time too, the market started to turn. We got out of a short sale environment. We got out of a foreclosure environment. The environment was changing such that People now had money to buy jobs. We had a more balanced market. And so I went from 8 sales the first year, which is a very good first year during that challenging time, to maybe 14, suddenly to 30. I got to this point where, wow, that's phenomenal. But I was working really hard and didn't really have any structure or systems or processes. It was all kind of just brute force. So to help kind of keep my sanity and not just put crazy hours in just to get all these deals done, I hired a business coach. And so that was a big turning point where I finally hired somebody to actually be my boss. It's quite interesting that you're paying somebody to hold you accountable, to be your boss, to coach you. So not only did it help me see my weaknesses in business process and systems, it helped me with mindset as well, and creating routines in my life, creating daily discipline. Through that structure, I just started to really learn and grow. And, I went from an individual agent to an individual agent with an assistant. The assistant became another agent, and then they were the buyer's agent. So I had 4 agents with an assistant. So there's just been this growth. And, again, I think hiring a business coach is something that is incredibly important to succeed in this business, or joining a team where you have a strong mentor and a strong leader who's going to train and coach and mentor you. I think those are huge keys to getting success sooner than later in the business. For us, we have a very clear culture. And again, this is something I learned over time too. So our culture is customer first, all about customer service, wowing your customers. 2, it's being super positive, waking up each day, putting forth your best effort and not getting too down, and just kind of having a positive outlook and positive mindset and a growth mindset towards everything that we do. And then 3, really making sure that the person who joins my team understands that first and foremost, it's all about the team, the customer, the client, and bringing that positivity and team mindset every single day. And then truly understanding why they're getting into this business. This is a business where what you see on TV with $1 million listing is not real. It's not realistic. And so I think, unfortunately, there's a 90% failure rate in real estate where people enter the business and they're out of the business within 3 years at a 90% rate. So that's pretty insane. And that's because this business is awesome and it's so rewarding, but it requires a pretty insane, intense work ethic and commitment to do what it takes to be successful. First step is we really dig deep and understand why the customer needs to buy a home or why they need to sell a home, because it's not just a transaction, and understanding why they want to make a decision to buy or why they want to make a decision to sell and how that's going to impact their lifestyle, their financial goals. That allows us to put on kind of the advisor hat and try and put ourselves in their shoes. And then we can make a, not a transaction-based decision, but a life-based decision that's going to help them improve their life in some way. So when we truly understand exactly what their why is and what's important to them for moving or buying or selling, then it allows us to put together a very thoughtful, strategic plan to achieve that goal. It really starts with a customer interview where we're listening to them and understanding their needs and how that's going to affect their family. And then the second step from there is, okay, now that we understand your goals, then we put together a plan that allows them to be very clear on what to expect, allows us to be on the same page as what to expect, and then we can execute from there. You can say you're customer-centric, but until you really try to feel like, I'm going to treat this sale or this purchase as if it was my mom buying a house or selling a house, it changes your mindset completely versus it being a transaction. So I think that's really the first step. Buying or selling a home is something that doesn't happen every so often. And so it's very unique and new to people, despite the fact that there's information on the internet about how to go about buying or selling a home. Why we call it concierge services, because it's no different than if you were going to a brand new city and you went to the hotel concierge and you go, how do I go about finding a great restaurant, knowing exactly where to go, what great entertainment places there are, where I can go watch a good show, where I should go shopping. We call it concierge services because you go in, you don't really know exactly what to do, but the concierge goes, I got it. I listened to you. I listened to what you're looking for. Let me take care of everything. So that's exactly what we do. I get it. You want to sell your home. You want to sell your home quickly. You live in the house, so it's going to be challenging. You need help with painting. You need help with staging the home. You need handymen to take the home. I get it. I've heard you. I've got all that down. We're going to take care of everything for you because we've got everybody who can handle all of those different services. And so that's really the key. It could be somebody saying, I need to sell my home and here's why. I go, great, give me the keys and we'll take care of it from here. That's like the concierge service that we provide. A very common one is this can happen in particular with like investment properties where a renter is living in the house and the investor isn't in state or they're out of state. There is this like lovely home in a neighborhood that was a rental property for 20 years. So it needed a lot of work. It needed painting, it needed yard work, an inspection, it needed some repairs. And the owner just handed me the keys and we took care of all of this within a very short 2-week period. Got on the market, marketed it like we always do with a great social media plan, beautiful staging, beautiful photos and photography and videography. In 5 days, we got multiple offers, exceeding their sales price by what they were hoping for by $50,000, and they did not have to do a thing. All they had to do is hand me the keys and say, Maynard, go to work. I called them. I said, we have an offer to sign. I sent them the offer to electronically sign. I go, let me take over from here. And on closing day, they had the money in their pocket. So it was that simple. This is an event that we've never encountered before. So here in Seattle, our market prior to the pandemic was low inventory, pretty competitive for buyers. So it was definitely a seller's market. And we were just getting ready to enter into kind of our peak spring busy season. The rates were low, consumer confidence was pretty high, and then the pandemic happened. And then it took a little bit of time to see how the market was going to react to it. What was interesting, despite what was going on and all the uncertainty of the future, buyers were buying houses up until the day the stay-at-home order was issued. Our market was still staying pretty strong. Like fundamentally here in Seattle, we're anchored by Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Starbucks, Apple. We have a lot of very strong companies here that are shaping the way the world is going to live and behave in the future. So because we're so tech driven, a lot of our buyers right now are still well employed and they're still doing fine and working from home. The market is still staying strong despite a slower amount of volume, understandably. Luckily, what we're seeing again here to keep our Seattle housing prices pretty strong and our market pretty healthy is that the demand is still there for homes that are coming on the market and that are priced, fairly. I think the savvy buyers are understanding that, they're not necessarily buying the price of a house. What they're doing is they're locking into a monthly payment that combined with low interest rates is something they can afford, right? And it's something they know over the long term, even if we have some uncertainty about what's happening here with the pandemic and the effect on housing prices. On the long term, fundamentally, we're very strong. My outlook is pretty positive. I'm speaking with my sellers right now who are planning to get their homes on the market in the next 2 to 4 weeks, and we're continuing moving forward. There isn't anything I'm seeing that goes, it's going to be a bad time to put it on the market, at least here in Seattle.